They say there are two kinds of people in the world. Those who divide the world into two kinds of people, and those who don't. Gretchen Rubin admits in the first chapter of her book, The Four Tendencies, that she is definitely the first kind. She created the Four Tendencies out of a desire to understand people better. She has spent a lot of her career studying happiness and habits. She's a blogger, speaker, author, and she co-hosts a podcast called Happier with her sister, Elizabeth Kraft. So what are the Four Tendencies? Well, before I go into describing them all for you, let's try and figure out which one you are. That way you're not biased to try and make yourself fit into one of the boxes. You know what I mean? Figuring out your tendency is pretty simple. It may or may not be easy depending on how well you know yourself and how much you lie to yourself. Let's be real. There are 2 questions and 2 answers. The first question: how do you respond to outer expectations? These are expectations that others place on us, like a work deadline, a request from a friend. How do you respond? Do you meet those expectations, or do you resist those expectations? The second question is, how do you respond to inner expectations? These are the expectations that we place on ourselves. Maybe you want to run a marathon, write a book, anything that you want to do that nobody else cares about, just you. Nobody else is depending on you to do it. Do you meet those expectations, or do you resist? The first tendency: upholder. You're an upholder if you meet inner and outer expectations. Upholders readily meet all expectations. The second tendency: questioner. You're a questioner if you question all expectations. You only meet inner expectations, which includes outer expectations that you've managed to justify or had your questions about them answered satisfactorily, I can't say that word, so that they've become inner expectations. The third tendency: obliger. You're an obliger if you readily meet outer expectations, but you struggle to meet the inner expectations that you want yourself to meet. And the fourth tendency: rebel. Rebels are the smallest of all of the tendencies. Fewer people are rebels than any other tendency. Rebels resist all expectations, outer and inner alike. Rebels do what they want to do in their own way and in their own time. You can't make a rebel do anything, but on the flip side, neither can they. None of the tendencies are any better or worse than any of the other tendencies. Maybe you feel like you'd like to change your tendency. You think you'd rather be different than you are. But Gretchen believes the happiest and most successful people are those who stop fighting against their tendency and work with it. Learn about your strengths and weaknesses and design a life that works for you. I don't know about you, but I find this framework super interesting. I've been bugging all of my friends and family, making them talk to me about it, testing them, trying to figure out what their tendency is, and some of them seem to just immediately know, this is my tendency, and here's why. And some of them really struggle and are like, I can't quite figure it out. Some people, I'm very confident I know what their tendency is, and they're like, no, that's not it. In which case, I have to back down. You've got to trust what somebody else is saying is true about themselves, right? I am one of the strugglers. I've actually read the book through twice because every time I get halfway through the chapter about a certain tendency, I am a firm believer that I am that tendency. I'm like, yes, it all makes sense. This must be me. But then when I move on to the next tendency, I get halfway through that chapter and I'm like, oh no, this is it. This is me. I guess it isn't that crazy to have this response. Gretchen says that all of us kind of carry a little bit of each of the tendencies in us. Your textbook Upholder really likes making lists and having things organized and hates breaking plans once they've been made. and I resonate with all of that. But I really struggle sometimes, a lot of the time. And so I wonder, does that put me more in the obliger realm? Sometimes I feel like I can do things for other people that I can't do for myself. But I am constantly seeking to justify things. I'm very curious. I have questions about everything, and I want everything to be just so. I'm always trying to improve processes, and in that way, I seem more like a questioner. Oh, and I love to customize things. I love to take something that exists, and I love to tweak it until it's just exactly the way I want it to be, until it works really for me. That sounds like a questioner. But when I sit down and ask myself, how do I respond to inner and outer expectations? I resist. I resist all the expectations. And it's actually this little tip that she gives for rebels that has helped me the most since understanding the framework. And it's part of the reason why if you ask, I'd probably tell you I'm a rebel. It's the idea that rebels can do anything they want to do. If I find myself wanting to do something in a moment that is something that I want to do with my life, I just do it. As much as I can, I do it. If I'm in a free moment and I'm like, I feel like going outside for a walk, I personally know that would be really good for my mental and physical health. So I'm gonna go do it because I don't know how long that feeling is gonna last, and I depend a little bit on that feeling to get things done. If I want to work on a project, if I want to help someone, if I want to be involved, I just hop right on it. I do it right away. I cannot write something down and plan on doing it in the future because I want to do it now. I have to want to do it when I'm doing it. So it makes me sound super undisciplined, but it's a whole nother side of the ball game. You are not your tendency. You're not, an upholder or a questioner, an obliger or a rebel. You're you, and your tendency is just one of many tools that can help you to understand yourself better so that you can do the things that you want to do. And it's also a really cool tool that you can use to understand the people around you better so that you can stop having these communication errors and understand how you can really help each other and work together. Figuring out the tendencies of your coworkers, of your family members, could help prevent a lot of future squabbles. Even if you can't figure out their tendencies, taking the time to actually listen to the people around you and get to know them better. It's a small way you can make a big difference in somebody's life. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was just like a small dip of your baby toe into the pool that is the Four Tendencies and Gretchen Rubin's work. But you can check more out by reading the book yourself. And of course, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. What do you think of the framework? What do you think your tendency is? What do you think of my snake plant? Whatever, it's chill. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for watching. Later, haters.